Hi, I'm Dr. Karen Parker here with your weekly Quantum Human Design energy report for the week starting on Monday, June the 23rd. All right, so we have some really good energy this week, but I have to just start by reminding us all of a couple of things. Number one, we can have great energy and we can have crummy energy, and it's never the planet's fault if things are bad or good. We are being given by the planets a soul curriculum, right? It's showing us, highlighting for us important growth themes that we need to look at and focus on. Sometimes I see people kind of try to blame the planets. Oh, this is happening because of this planetary position or that planetary position. And again, I'm not saying that the planets don't stir up core themes, but it's not the planet's fault. We always have the opportunity to choose whenever the curriculum is presented to us. And so I want to be mindful that we don't abdicate our own responsibility for how we show up for the soul curriculum that's being highlighted by the planets and start blaming the planets for what's going on. It's our universal collective story complex and our personal stories, the way in which we play with the archetypes of who we are and our own healing journey, our own consciousness, our own perspective, and ultimately our own choices around the core themes playing out on the planetary weather that influence the outcomes. No planet is making anybody do anything. We decide, we choose, but the planets are showing us what are we here to learn right now? What are we focusing on? Which is, of course, a big theme for what we're looking at this week. So I want to just say, Jupiter is moved into Cancer, which is a really nice place for Jupiter to be. Jupiter's all about expansion. It's all about blessings. It's all about growth. And Jupiter in its highest position is really about nurturing, caring, taking care of, bringing new life forward. It's a very creative, sweet energy. And the energy of Jupiter is, as I said, about growth and expansion. And of course, we can choose to use this energy to grow the goodness that is who we are and the goodness of our human story, or we can use this energy to grow things that don't feel so great, right? This can be an expansive energy one way or the other. Now, this week, we see on Tuesday and Wednesday a really nice interplay between Jupiter and the Sun. The Sun is in Cancer, the Jupiter is in Cancer, so we've got these beautiful potential blessing-filled energies that have a lot of opportunity. And so I would certainly say this week brings with it kind of an extra dose of big new moon energy. It's a really good week to focus on new beginnings, new energy, new expansion, and certainly the things that we focus on this week have the capacity to really grow for a while in our lives. So I definitely want to encourage you this week to put your energy and attention and your focus on where are you headed, what do you want to start, where do you want to grow, because you'll be really supported by the celestial weather in that focus. So, but here's something I want us to just think about, because for the last couple of weeks, I've been saying, the weather looks really amazing. It's good weather for growth, right? The celestial weather has been good weather for growth. And yet, terrible things keep happening on the planet. And again, gentle reminder, we're in a big overarching theme of disruption. And that disruption is bringing us ultimately the catalysts that have the potential to inspire in us the possibility of peace, creativity, sustainability, abundance, unity amongst all of the human tribes, right? That's a potential of where we're headed, but we can't get there with the old energy. We have to blow up the old energy. And when we have this kind of really juicy, good, expansive energy in the celestial weather, it can be an expansion of the goodness, or it can be an explosion that is expansive. And so certainly the energy has seemed rather explosive, extreme. And when the Sun is highlighting the gate 15, which is, as we talked about last week, this pattern disrupting energy, right? It's the forest fire that cracks the pine cones open and the seeds are then free to be disseminated and spread into the newly fertilized soil that comes from, the burning down of all the detritus and the nutrients being restored back into the soil. That gate 15 energy has that potential for it to be, the fire. And if we focus on the fire and we forget, oh, this is an essential part of the fourth cycle, and we need the fire for the growth, right? We sometimes can get lost. The highest expression of that same gate 15 energy is compassion. It's the energy, to really be able to see that we, each and every one of us, have a role to play, and that us fulfilling that role is part of what we're here to give to the world. And certainly it's a place where we're invited to disrupt any pattern collectively in that collective story complex that is our human story, to disrupt any old stories, societal stories, collective stories, cultural stories that are keeping us from creating with compassion. That's the place where we really want to focus our energy this week when we think about our capacity for growth and expansion. And certainly this week, when the sun and Jupiter are really hanging out super close together in a conjunction pattern, it promises to expand on anything that we focus on. And certainly I would say with that energy, we really need to be focusing on what do we want? What do we want? Not where are we separate from each other? Compassion and that energy of compassion, which in the shadow can be an energy of extreme disruption, really invites us to ask, who am I? Who are you? Is there a me and a you, or is there just an us? And how do we move forward in our creative capacity, realizing that there is no me, you, us, them, but only us. And again, a deep, deep invitation from the planets. They've been giving us this invitation for a while now to decondition our inner polarization. That the energy for war and the energy for peace live in the exact same place because it's the exact same archetype. It's just one shadow expression, one high expression. I wouldn't even call it shadow or high, because I think anytime we start to think good, bad, shadowed, light, we start to polarize, and we really have to get practiced at saying it's all us, it's all possibility. And in that context of both and, what are we going to choose? What are we going to choose? And to not put ourselves in a position where it's either or, but consciously choosing where are we going to stand on that quantum field of information that is peace and all the things that potentially are essential for calibrating and creating peace. So we have all this energy this week for expansion. We have all this energy for growth. And then we have Saturn. And Saturn is kind of pushing on us and pushing on us in a way that is really asking us, what are we doing and why are we doing what we're doing? Saturn highlights the gate 25. Now, again, this is going to sound a little dark, so it's not meant dark. I want us to, again, as you listen to this, embrace the idea that we always have choice. We always have choice. And when we look at that 25 energy, which lives in the heart and lives in the G center, and it is the place that says our direction is derived from our connection to source. We can take a direction that is aligned with all those higher order archetypes, beauty, goodness, love, that comes and that is the potential that lives in us when we connect to our personal and our collective higher purpose. But I think it's important to note that when we look at, say, Adolf Hitler's chart, that 2551 is the only channel he had defined, right? Where that 25 energy lives. And so that 25 energy that Saturn is pushing on, and Saturn is our taskmaster, Saturn is our teacher, Saturn invites us to explore what needs to be burned away. What's the dross in the alchemical process that has to get burned away to turn coal into gold? Right? When Saturn is highlighting this position, Saturn is saying, hey, where are we aligning ourselves? And yeah, I just said decondition your inner polarization, but certainly Saturn is saying good or evil, right? Or highest order or base order, right? And so this Saturn energy is kind of pushing us in a corner and causing us to think, oh, I have to have an extreme response, right? That's that 15 energy. And then ultimately later on this week, the 52 energy, which is the gate of perspective that starts transiting courtesy of the sun on Wednesday. I'll talk about more of that in a minute. And so we have this sort of expansion, but it's almost as if Saturn is saying you can expand, but here's this tiny little channel through which you can expand. And that tiny little channel through which you can expand is that energy of you recognizing that your expansion right now has to be connected to your higher purpose. It has to be connected to your authentic self. It has to be connected to you recognizing and owning your right place, your right space in the cosmic plan. And if you're settling for less, or you're compromising on that, or you're letting your lack of faith and your fear win, and you're not letting yourself stretch into that authentic space, then it's going to feel really difficult to grow something good, right? Something that feels beneficial to your expansion. So if it's feeling like, hey, that's possibly good stuff happening here, but I don't know, like I'm feeling really constricted, and how am I going to create this goodness in this very limited way, in this very pressure cooker kind of environment? That's what I would expect you to feel this week. And that's going to, of course, impact our sense of support, our sense of direction, our sense of lovability, our sense of power, our sense of, feeling like I can do this or not do this. So here's the key. Here's the key. So we have all this intense energy kicking in, and then we go through a new moon. The sun moves, the earth moves, new moon hits this Wednesday. The sun moves out of the 15, this gate of compassion, which is also the gate of extremes in the shadow, to this gate 52, the gate of perspective, and we are grounded in the gate 58, the gate of joy. Now, joy is not an emotional energy. I want to be clear. In human design, joy is what happens when we practice and practice and practice and practice, and we keep refining and tweaking and practicing some more until we get the expression of who we are into its more perfected form. And the practice that we do is driven by joy. We practice because the thing that we're working on is bringing us joy. And if we compromise on that, right? If we do the things we got to do instead of doing the things that light us up and fuel our drive because they're joy-filled, when we compromise on that, we lose our drive. We become stagnant, or we abdicate our creative power, and we don't tap into the full capacity of us to fulfill our potential. Now, I want to talk about the sun. So number one this week, ground yourself in joy. Figure out those things that light you up enough to make you go do the work necessary, and it doesn't feel like work because it feels like joy. And that's sort of the prime directive from the earth this week. And certainly pay attention to what lights you up this week. The second thing I want to invite you into is recognizing that sun in the gate 52, which is also our new moon energy this week, this is a gate of perspective in quantum human design. So I want to give you a story. I want to be really clear. This is not my culture, but this is a myth that I love from the Mahabharata, which is an Indian epic story. I'm probably saying that wrong, and I apologize if I'm offending anyone, but it's such a good story, and I want to bring it to you because there's so much information in this story that pertains to the gate 52. In the story, there is a young man named Arjuna who is learning how to become a good warrior, a good hunter, and how to use this bow and arrow to hit his target, right? And he's standing around learning with a bunch of people how to shoot his arrow. And his teacher asks the students, what are you focusing on? When you've got your bow drawn and you're looking up and you're getting ready to kill the bird that you're going to eat, what are you looking at? And the different warriors are saying, I see the sun in the sky. I see the light on the leaves. I see the leaves rustling in the wind. I see, they're talking about all the things that they see around them. And then the teacher asks, Arjuna, what are you focusing on? And Arjuna says, I see the eye of the bird. What else do you see? I see the eye of the bird, says Arjuna. What else are you focusing on? Teacher, I see the eye of the bird. And the teacher says, you are ready to become successful because you've mastered this lesson, right? In that story, Arjuna is so focused, no matter what's going on around him. The sun is glistening on the leaves, the wind is blowing. He's standing in a group of all of his friends. They're holding that bow and arrow, and he's single focused. His focus is single-handed, right? He's focused on the eye of the bird. that is a good story for the Gate 52, because the Gate 52 is kind of like, I think of the Gate 52 as being an eagle, right? When the eagle is flying over the field, they see the whole field. And if the eagle doesn't know where to focus, they are going to miss the rabbits, all the little things that are bopping around in the field below. If they don't know where to focus, they're not going to be able to get their meal, right? You have to know where to focus. And that big perspective can be so distracting if we're not careful. And so the sun and the earth this week are saying, put your focus on your joy. And remember, this is expansive energy this week. It's a new moon in highlighting the energy of Cancer, new moon with Jupiter in Cancer. We've got all this expansive energy playing out, and the potential for us to, with the right focus on what brings us joy, to expand upon that for the next 6 months. And so really take some time this week to think about what lights you up, what brings you joy, where, what is your focus? What are you focusing on? And don't forget that focus creates. You must see the eye of the bird. You must focus your sight on that eye of the bird in order for you to be able to land your mark, right? To be able to do what you're doing. And if we get distracted, if the news distracts us, if the internet distracts us, if we let life circumstances take us away from our focus, then we miss the mark. And so take some time this week to really explore, where do you want to focus, and make sure that focus is grounded in that thing that you would do no matter what, that thing that brings you joy, that thing that creates a drive for you, that you're willing to do whatever it takes to practice, to learn, to grow, to start over if you have to, but do whatever it takes for you to fulfill that full expression of your joy. That's what I got for you this week. Take good care of yourselves. Flower remedies for this week. I recommend for any of you who are struggling with setbacks and not trusting that setbacks are part of the story. Gentian as a flower remedy is a great flower remedy for this week. Walnut, if you are struggling with a difficulty of staying true to yourself, keeping your focus on the eye of the bird, walnut is a great flower remedy to work with this week. Your EFT setup for this week, even though with so much going on, it's hard for me to keep my focus. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I want to remind you before we go for this week, cultivating joy is not something that we have to wait for everybody else to catch up with us with. When we hold the energy of joy, when we give ourselves permission to do those things that we are here to do, that we are here to embody and bring into the world with joy, that's a contagious energy. That's an energy that creates more and more room for others to do the same. So even though it can feel hard, when things feel hard, when the world feels like it's hurting, to do the thing that brings you joy, that joy is a revolutionary act. So do your joy. Do your joy. The world needs you to live your joy. Have a great week. I'll talk to you all next week. Bye.